And we've got Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd in the Element Well studio. She represents District 9, which includes Lafayette and Panola counties, serves as the chair of the Senate Study Group on Women, Children, and Families, and vice chair of Senate Universities and Colleges Cmte. Is that all still correct, Senator?
Yes, it is.
Welcome to the program. Thanks for coming on. So it's been a fairly active session, but it just seems to me like we haven't had any really high-profile legislation that's made it through yet. It just feels like that at this point.
Well, we're still early in the process, believe it or not. Even though we've got almost just really under a month left, we are now at that critical juncture where both sides have bills from the other house there. And so those are being hotly debated this week. If people want to tune in and watch the legislature, those will be going on probably.
See all the fireworks.
They'll see fireworks until Wednesday night.
Rhino's going to step in and adjust your mic a little bit. Yeah, that'll be better right there.
All right, thank
you. Yes.
But so you'll see fireworks probably even late into the night Wednesday night if it works like it usually works.
Well, we've already had some fireworks, at least over on the House side. It's been a fair amount.
There has been a fair amount. So we hadn't had quite as many fireworks on the Senate side yet. So, but things are just getting started. So I think usually this is the most contentious is when it makes it over from the other house over there, because if you were to pass that law just the way that they sent it over, that goes straight to the governor.
Right.
So right now you've got kind of a contentious time, and so you're about to see this starting probably this afternoon when we gavel in at 4. I don't know how much we'll take up this afternoon, but definitely Tuesday and Wednesday you're going to see fireworks, I'm sure, just because everybody knows this is there's no second bite at the apple here right now. This is where if the bill doesn't have a reverse repealer, you go straight to the governor.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So just talk about this study group on women, children, and families. Tell us what that's all about.
So this summer we did a study group on women, children, and families, and we looked. It was after the Dobbs decision came down, and we really took this opportunity to really see, and we had already been talking about this in the Senate. We had a large expectation as we were watching the court arguments last year during the Dobbs case as to which way the court was leaning just based on their questions. And so it was no surprise to us when the Dobbs decision came down. And so we took this as an opportunity to say, really, what are we doing in the state to promote women, children, and families? What is it that families need? What are the kind of the things that we really need to take a deep dive with and look at? So we held a number of hearings. I stopped counting at 50. I personally had over 50 meetings with different groups and entities that had that was a stakeholder in the process, some shape, form, or fashion. And so we crafted kind of a legislative agenda on those particular issues. And there's still more that we are going to go back to and that we're going to do, but we felt solid about the legislation that we were proposing for this session. So one of the pieces that's like, we'll start kind of with the early is that one of the pieces that's over there is an early intervention task force. I think people have heard me say over and over again now, last year, I believe we served 1,562 children. We know that number should be upwards of 10,000. And it is one of the things that has the largest ROI on education investment. So if you spend $1 on that, you're going to save a tremendous amount of dollars in the long term, because many of the children that get those early intervention services will never need special education services once they get to school. Yeah. They will never need then employment assistance or anything like that. And so that's why it's a critical piece that we get right in the state, because that ROI is tremendous on that. So that's one of the pieces that we have over in the House right now. And then we've looked at one of the other small issues that we looked at. It's not a small issue, is we were doing a great job of training some of our individuals in our universities and colleges. And the way that we had crafted the system in Mississippi is they weren't able to be employed here. So we were sending wonderful graduates to Arkansas and Tennessee and Alabama. So we need to change those technicalities. So both of those bills are over in the House right now, and hopefully they'll be taking those up within the next couple of days, and we can pass those on, and we can have that early intervention task force that's going to look and see how we reshape early intervention in the state to make sure that we are getting kids covered and we're handling those issues early, and then we can get those kids healthy and whole to our schools. So we'll be doing that. Another issue that we really just kind of skimmed the surface with, there's a tremendous amount of issues in our adoption and foster care system right now. And can't say enough praise about our Commissioner Andrea Sanders. We've been working with them. We've been working with youth court judges across the state. And so we have got a task force that would have all the kind of the players at the table, that we could really do a comprehensive look at our adoption and foster care system. We've been under a federal court order now for about 19 years in the state on our adoption and foster care system. And we've spent way too much money in lawyer fees and litigation fees. And that money could be used to help those children. So we've got a task force that would comprehensively look at that, make proposals to the legislature on whatever changes need to be made on that. And so that's another bill that is over in the House right now that we're looking at, hopeful that they'll take up. And then in the Senate right now, we have a number of bills that the House sent over, and one of them is on foster care rights. Because what we found out when we were listening to all of our foster families is, sometimes and a lot of our foster parents work. And so they would say, hey, the child you're caring for right now, they have a doctor's appointment this afternoon. And they wouldn't get that full notice that they need. They wouldn't get the notice even about the kids' IEP meetings and their counseling appointments and things like that. And so we wanted to make sure that our foster families are being treated appropriately. And so we've got a bill here that we've worked with the youth court judges on, and we've worked with the CPS on, and we've worked with foster families on. And we think that bill will put that kind of in the right direction to really make sure that those foster families are getting all the due consideration that they deserve when they're taking care of these children. Most of these children have had trauma. There's a lot of care that is needed for those children, and we need to make sure that we are supporting those foster families as well. And also that it encourages foster families. I talked to a number of individuals who had been foster parents, but because of kind of the kinks in some of the system, and that's not every situation, but it was in many situations that they stopped being foster parents. Mm-hmm. And so we want to encourage a healthy amount of foster parents. So that's one bill on that. The other bill is what I'm calling, I don't know what the technical name is, but what it really is, it's a path to permanency. When a child comes into the foster care system, and what are our safe haven laws? What can we do immediately to make sure that that child gets placed in a permanent home as quickly as possible? And so we have a number of different things in that bill that will make sure that those children get permanency as quickly as possible and get them out of the system and into that permanent home. So youth court judges, CPS, and a number of foster parents have kind of come together, and we've got that bill that kind of is ongoing right now in the Senate. So hopefully we will get that out by Wednesday and get that over back to the House where they can either concur or invite conference, or we can get that on to the governor. So.
Interesting. Well, the foster care system, I've talked about this before in the state. It's been needing an update for quite some time.
Right. It has. It has needed an update, and CPS is doing a great job really at trying to really revolutionize our system within the state of child protective services. We've got some judges that are really incredible, some youth court judges out there right now. And so we want to make sure that we are giving them all the tools that they need, and in places where it's not working, where we don't have great system in those pockets of the state. We're trying to put those things in place that will make sure that it is outstanding.
Okay. All right, Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd is our guest in the Element Wealth Studios. You can hang around. We got
Absolutely.
some more to talk about. Yeah?
All right.
You guys don't gavel in until later today, right?
Not till 4.
Okay, we're good to go. Coming right back. Stay with us about Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd, our guest in the Element Wealth Studios. So, no doubt, updating the foster care system, the adoption system in this state has been sorely needed for quite some time. And so regardless of Roe, regardless of the postpartum Medicaid expansion debate, those are separate issues from this.
This was a great opportunity to really comprehensively look at women, children, and family, look at all those particular issues. And so we use this as an opportunity to really look at our entire system.
Right.
From when the time a mother gets pregnant to really age 3 is kind of where we took it, and of a child. And so therefore, this was something we felt was really important to kind of know and really take a look at that. And we knew that this was an opportunity to really look at that. And so that's what we've done with this. The House has done with this. And I hope that when we visit after April, that we will have sent a great number of bills to the governor to really work and improve this system.
Okay. Well,
and the governor's office has been super supportive. They've been involved the whole time. So I feel like everybody's working together to really make some significant changes in this process.
Good. All right. What's been going on with respect to your serving as the vice chair of the Senate Universities and Colleges Cmte? Any action there?
Yes. So we've got a number of bills put forth. We're looking at different funding opportunities and different scholarships and things right now. I think you'll see those bills probably largely in conference is what I think is going to happen. And so we'll be kind of looking at that legislation, if we're going to revise some of the programs that we have right now or if we're going to keep them the same. So there'll be a lot more to come on that, kind of probably more towards the conference. That is my expectation, that it goes to conference. Yes.
Shift gears a bit. What about the ballot initiative process, which currently does not exist in the state of Mississippi?
So I am a co-sponsor with that legislation. Senator McConnell is the primary on it. And so right now the House has before it the resolution that would need to go on the ballot come November that would put it basically for to create a legislative. It's not a state process where somebody would where people could propose legislation, and so it would need to replace what's on the ballot now, since the court has said what we have on the ballot now is unconstitutional, because it's not a workable process that they said back in the marijuana legislation. Mm-hmm. So there is a bill over in the House right now. It does have a reverse repealer. So again, it's going to be a bill that goes to conference. And a reverse repealer, just to remind the listeners out there, a reverse repealer is a something you put in the bill that it enacts on the same. It enacts and it dies on the same day, and so that's to make sure that we properly discuss it, and that's also to make sure it goes to conference, because it would have no effect if it didn't do that. Yeah. So
it's it has no power essentially.
Exactly.
So, all right. So, are you okay with the increase in the signature number?
I think I am okay with an increase in the signature number. Mm-hmm. If we are going to put something on the ballot, you don't need something that's super easy to. You don't need something that's so easy that we get every little thing on the ballot that could possibly somebody has an ideal about there. So you want to put it at a significant number on the ballot. I don't know where that number will wind up, honestly, at this point. I think that's something people are talking about right now. So right now, I think the way the language reads, it would be 12% of qualified voters at the time of the last presidential election. And so that's kind of where it is right now in the House. We'll see kind of what comes out of the House and what happens in conference on that piece of legislation.
The present model in our Constitution, which has, of course, been deemed unconstitutional, would require 12% of those who voted in the last gubernatorial election.
Right.
So this change would more than double that figure.
It does. It does. So I'm not sure where we will wind up in conference on this piece of legislation. So we're going to see what happens with that. It will go to conference, and we will see kind of what the House did not change that number that was originally proposed right now, but we'll see where we kind of wind up on that.
Yeah, I thought they actually did change it. I thought Representative Shanks said that they had decided to concur with the Senate with the higher figure. But I could be wrong about that, Senator.
Well, right now it is the number the Senate, sent over.
Right,
so,
right.
yeah.
But I thought I heard him say in an interview that was written up that at this point that in committee they didn't modify that figure. So,
yeah.
But you're right. Once this goes to conference, who knows what the final number looks like? That's what's important at this point.
Yeah. The conference is where I often say you really have the sausage-making process.
Right.
So, but we'll see what this number kind of winds up to be when people go to conference on this legislation.
As it should be, honestly. I think something this major should be. I will say this. It's a bit ironic that the threshold to amend the Constitution is lower than what's being considered to simply make or amend statute.
Well, and I do think that we wanted a higher number because we want to make sure that when we set this process up, that it's really high enough that we really get something that's important to voters, that there's been that much of a concern across the state, that this is an issue that the voters feel strongly about. The other process, too, is you have so many national organizations now that have no really stronghold in the state. They are not really part of a state organization here that could come in and push a national agenda. That is not something that is Mississippi-led. And so you want to make sure that these are issues that are important to Mississippians, that it's not just some group that comes in from a national level and kind of, is just following national politics. You want to make sure that it is something really that is it's an ideal that is important to Mississippi values. And I think that's kind of where I think the number of my colleagues that I've talked to, they've really pushed that, making sure that this is something that Mississippians want. Right. That it's not just something that somebody from a national group has come in and ran a flashy campaign on.
Well, we could certainly debate this extensively, but I'll just make this point. I think by having a higher signature threshold, you're pretty much assuring that the only people that will get a measure on the ballot are the out-of-state, well-funded, well-organized entities, that any sort of grassroots movement in the state is prohibitive. So I think we're pretty much assuring the only people that would do that would be very large entities that have lots of resources.
Yeah, I think the sentiment from a number of the legislators might be right the opposite. Just candidly thinking that I
just disagree with them.
Yeah. So, but again, this is going to be all ironed out in conference committees. So I
understand. All right, income tax elimination, which was stated by the Speaker of the House, at least on the House side, to be top priority. Looks like at this point we may not get anything. We can't seem to get consensus in the House. What do you think the Senate? What's the sentiment in the Senate about that?
I think the sentiment from the Senate is the House had said they were wanted to do this, or leadership had, and so I think we were all looking to see what the House did on this because they had made those statements. I will tell you the Senate has been super focused on looking at a number of particular issues. We're still concerned very much about postpartum. We feel like in this day and age of when we overturned Roe v. Wade with the Dobbs case, the Senate feels like it's very, very important that we provide that extension of postpartum care to mothers beyond that 60 days to the full year. Wyoming was the only state in the country that did not have either postpartum extension or Medicaid. Medicaid expansion.
In addition to Mississippi.
And last week, they voted to do the 12-month extension. Texas, who only had 6 months, had not really even fully implemented their program, has already gone to 12 months. So we have these really red states across the country that are doing this postpartum extension, and Mississippi right now is the only state that has not done that. So I appreciate the leadership of the governor, the leadership of the attorney general in really trying to say this is important, and that bill is before the House right now. So Senate really wants to see that bill come through.
Thanks for coming on, Senator.
Yes.
Good talking to you. Senator Nicole Akins-Boyd has been our guest in the Element Wealth Studios. Half an hour left. Stay with us.